Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is What If Naruto Got Harem with Fem Kyuubi Part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Uzumaki Naruto was excited. Today was the day he would start at the Ninja Academy and take the first step towards his goal of becoming Hokage. Sarutobi Hijiran, the current Hokage of Konoha, had filled his forms and signed as his guardian as Naruto was an orphan. Naruto was truly thankful that his Oji-san had allowed him entry into the academy. For as long as he could remember, the villagers seemed to treat him with indifference, contempt and sometimes hatred. He couldn't understand what he had done to warrant such behavior towards himself. He had stayed up many a night thinking about his life and wondering if it would eventually get better. Shaking his head of his morose thoughts, he got ready to go the academy. He was the first one to arrive at the academy and, walking towards the end of the class, took a seat near the window. People began to come in, a few threw curious glances at him, but Naruto was busy staring out the window. Soon the teacher came in and asked the class to settle down. He began to take roll call. Uzumaki. Naruto. The teacher finished calling his name with a sneer plastered on his face. Great. Another one, thought Naruto. Here, he replied in a monotone. Throughout the rest of the day, Naruto noticed the trend continue with each and every teacher of the class. He was getting totally frustrated by the attitude of the teachers. But he knew that he could do nothing about it. This is going to be a long 5 years, he mused. Time skip 6 months. Over the past 6 months, Naruto had tried very hard to work hard and excel in his studies. He would complete the assigned work, would try to answer questions in class, but the teachers always said that he had failed. He couldn't understand why he was treated thus. He had hoped that by working hard he would be able to earn the respect of his teachers and be treated fairly at the very least. Although he was sure that he got every question right on the exam, he had barely scraped through and the Rookie of the Year title had gone to Uchiha Sasuke. After another day at the academy, Naruto was walking towards his apartment. He passed the village park on his way and gazed longingly at the happily smiling kids playing with their friends, parents encouraging their kids to ride a slide or a swing. He felt his throat constrict and averted his gaze and walked resolutely away from the park. It was not good to get upset over things that can't be changed, he told himself. But he truly longed for a friend. He had gone to see the Hokage after a week of classes, but when he arrived at the tower he saw that there were several ninja in his office and there was someone shouting. His Oji-san truly looked tired and Naruto didn't have the heart to pile up his problems with his own. He was truly considering withdrawing from the academy. The treatment at the hands of his teachers hadn't improved and he wasn't able to make any friends. Sure, there were some acquaintances, but he couldn't call them friends. Another odd problem that he had been having lately was his dreams. They always started with his standing in a long hallway surrounded with pipes and ended at a massive cage that had the kanji for seal on it. He could always hear someone call out his name from behind the cage, but whenever he used to approach the cage the whole area would glow a pulsing white and he would wake up in a cold sweat. He always thought that he could hear someone sobbing whenever he woke up. It tore at his heart that he was causing someone pain, someone that seemed to care for him, but he unable to do anything about it. Time skip. That night, after having a few cups of instant ramen as dinner, Naruto took out a scroll that he had acquired from the library in which only third-year academy students were allowed to enter. It was a scroll that detailed the method that ninjas used to unlock their chakra for access. Chakra, Naruto realized, was the most important thing for a ninja. Without it they were simple martial artists. Chakra allowed ninjas to perform feats that were beyond imagination. Predictably, Naruto couldn't wait to access his. Naruto read through the scroll twice before making sure that he had the facts right. He sat down on his bed and began to meditate. He quickly got bored doing it and let his mind wander. He remembered the cold, hateful stares. The vindictive eyes cursing him, shouting at him silently. He remembered the silent sobbing that he would hear when he woke up from one of his weird dreams. Naruto was suddenly filled with determination to change the way people saw him, to earn their respect, to prove to them that he was worthy of their respect, but even this determination paled in comparison to the need he felt to find out who was the person who cared enough to weep for him. Naruto returned to the exercise with a new wind. He closed his eyes and concentrated. Searching for the feeling described in the book, it said that it would be near the navel, a feeling of power and lightedness. He concentrated hard. His eyes were closed so he never noticed the complex seal structure that suddenly appeared on his stomach. Naruto suddenly felt a huge power that was within his grasp. All that he had to do was reach for it. He extended a mental hand towards it and sighed as he opened his eyes. What he saw in front of him shocked him to the very core. Chakra. His own chakra surrounded him, black streams of energy going outwards from his body. Chakra that could be seen with the eye. Naruto tilted his head in confusion. The scroll never mentioned such a thing happening. He, however, liked the feeling of it and tried his best to bring out as much of it as possible. A huge shockwave of chakra exploded out of him, utterly destroying his bedroom. Naruto saw the destruction around him, amazed that he could do such a thing. Hey, looks like I overdid it, bit, he said and promptly passed out. Naruto's mindscape. Naruto regained consciousness and looked around at his surroundings. He was in the same hallway that he saw when he used to fall asleep. There was a difference now, however. The walls seemed to be pulsing with the same shade of black that he had seen earlier. He walked the now familiar path towards where the cage was. He arrived at the hallway leading to the cage and the previously muted sounds that he could hear were heard clearly by him. Naruto-kun. The voice that he heard was distinctly female and was laced with an underlying of unimaginable power. Naruto hurried his footsteps and came upon a sight that filled him with awe. There behind the cage with the seal on it was the biggest fox that he had ever seen. A fox with 9 tails. Behind the cage was the famed Kyuubi no Kitsune. Please don't be afraid of me, Naruto-kun, Kyuubi said. You're the Kyuubi, aren't you? Naruto asked in a shaky voice. Yes, I am, Kyuubi replied. Everyone believes that you were defeated by the Yondaime Hokage approximately 7 years ago, Naruto said, trailing off at the end, gaining confidence as he saw that Kyuubi didn't immediately attack him. Naruto had a weird expression on his face, as if he was trying to figure out something, connecting dots with the information that he had received. He paced in front of the cage, muttering so low that even Kyuubi with her enhanced hearing could not hear. Kyuubi's luminous red eyes followed Naruto's path, darting from one place to another. Finally he stopped and stared at the Kyuubi. His gaze unnerved Kyuubi to no end. Those eyes of his were far too intelligent, too mature to belong to a child. But looking back at his life, she was not surprised. He sealed you within me, Naruto declared. Kyuubi was astonished. He was able to glean that from just meeting her. Hell, she had barely spoken 2 sentences to him and he figured all that out just by staring at her. Got it in one, Naruto-kun. You aren't as evil as most demons are said to be. Naruto was back to staring at her. Were you the one who used to call out to me in my dreams? Were you the one I heard crying for me? Naruto said softly. Kyuubi had to strain herself to hear the last part. Please come inside the cage, Naruto-kun. I promise that I won't harm you. Kyuubi said, her voice cracking slightly, barely able to hold back her tears. Naruto nodded his head slightly. But as he began moving towards the cage he realized that it would be physically impossible for him to fit in the cage that already housed the humongous Kyuubi no Kitsune. He paused right outside the cage bars. Kyuubi, sensing his problem, quickly transformed into her human form. When the flash associated with her transformation died down, there, in place of the Kyuubi, was a girl of around Naruto's age. Her eyes remained the same, a beautiful shade of red. She was a tad bit shorter than Naruto, had red hair that went up to her mid-back. Her hair was tied in a ponytail of sorts with what seemed to be a gold ornament. She was wearing a red kimono and geta sandals. You can come in now, Naruto-kun, Kyuubi said, her voice laced with emotion. Naruto entered the cage and walked up to Kyuubi. She patted the floor next to her and Naruto sat down beside her. There are a lot of things you don't know, Naruto-kun. It would be best if I tell you exactly how I was sealed into you. Saying that, Kyuubi started her tale. She told him how she was sealed within his mother Kushina Uzumaki before him, how she had been forcefully extracted from Kushina when she went into labor. How Uchiha Madara, one of the founders of Konoha, had taken control over her using his eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. How she was forced to attack him when his parents had tried to seal her within him. How she had broken through the effects of the Sharingan just before she was going to impale Naruto's parents that had been ready to sacrifice their lives to save him. How Madara, angry that the Kyuubi was no longer under his control, had killed Kushina and forced the Yondaime to fight him. How the Yondaime had managed to drive off Madara with assistance from Kyuubi. How he had performed the Shiki Fuin, sacrificed his soul to the Shinigami and asked Kyuubi to always be there for his son, to train him and make him into a formidable ninja. By the time that the tale had reached its conclusion, both Naruto and Kyuubi had tears streaming down their faces and were leaning on each other for physical as well as emotional support. Please believe me, Naruto-kun. I tried my best to fight him, but he was too elusive and I was severely weakened after fighting the whole of Konoha, Kyuubi said with her head hanging down in shame. It wasn't your fault, Kyuubi-chan, Naruto said, holding her chin in his hand and lifting her face up to meet his. Kyuubi blushed faintly at the endearment and gazed into his eyes to search for his true feelings. She saw only honesty, sympathy and determination shining through. Can you please tell me about my parents? Naruto asked with longing clear on his face. Kyuubi couldn't resist and told him everything that she knew about Kushina and for the time that she had known him, Minato Namikaze. After a few hours of storytelling, Naruto asked Kyuubi if she was going to train him to be a great ninja just like his parents. Of course, Naruto-kun, I will do everything that is within my power to make sure that you will be the strongest ninja in the elemental nations. You need to gain power fast in order to survive in the ninja world after all. Kyuubi said, nodding her head emphatically. Before I get into your training schedule, I need to ask you something. Do you know what a bloodline limit is? Kyuubi asked. Naruto tilted his head slightly and began racking his head for all the information that he had come across regarding bloodlines. They have something to do with special powers and characteristics of a person, usually clans, isn't it? Naruto asked. Kyuubi was again impressed by Naruto's knowledge. You surprise me with your knowledge, Naruto-kun. You are indeed correct. Bloodlines basically are clan-specific techniques that cannot be performed by another person outside the clan. Now, bloodlines are of 3 types. Chakra type, which alters your chakra such that you will be able to perform techniques that cannot be replicated without utilizing the special type of chakra. The first Hokage had a chakra type bloodline. Second is the body type, in which the bloodline alters the physical body of the wielder itself. It may be either a transformation or a passive one, such as regeneration. The Akamichi clan of Konoha are a prime example of this. The last type is a bloodline that alters the eyes and gives the user powers based on the type of dujutsu that they have. The Uchiha and the Hyuga clan of Konoha have their respective eyes called as the Sharingan and the Byakugan. Do you understand so far, Naruto-kun? Yeah. Besides bloodline limits, certain Biju, that's me, also can provide their containers with some powers that others view as a bloodline. Now, Naruto-kun, your situation is something that hasn't ever occurred in the elemental nations. You, Naruto-kun, are going to be the first ninja ever to have all 3 types of bloodlines within you. Kyuubi said, smirking slightly at the odd expression on Naruto's face. But, how is that possible? Naruto asked with a confused expression on his face. You have inherited 2 bloodlines from your parents. Your father had a bloodline that was related to the body. You will have to ask the Hokage about it, as I am not too sure about what it did exactly, but it allowed him tremendous stamina and exceptional muscle density. Thankfully, I know all about your mother's bloodline. It was called as the Soul Blade. It was a chakra-based bloodline that allowed her to manifest a sword that was a reflection of her soul. In addition to that, her chakra being more dense than normal allowed her to perform techniques that hadn't been seen for thousands of years. I remember the training that she had gone through, and we will begin doing that as soon as you talk to the Hokage. Kyuubi said. But I still don't have a dujutsu. Naruto pointed out. This is where I come in. You see, unlike your mother, who had already spent some time as a ninja before she was able to contact me, your chakra coils are just now developing, you will be receiving my form of the Sharingan. I will be able to implant it into your body using my chakra. Kyuubi said, looking quite proud of herself. What do you mean your Sharingan? Naruto asked. It was me who had given the Sharingan to the human ninjas in the first place. Most of the bloodlines found today are due to demons, so in a way I am responsible for the death of your parents. Madara abused his power to manipulate me and I ended up struck down by my own blade, twice. Kyuubi seemed to shrink down on herself, brought her knees closer to her body and hung her head. Naruto didn't like to see her act in such a way. He truly believed that there was no reason for her to feel guilty over something that was clearly not her fault. He placed all the blame of the events that transpired that night on Uchiha Madara. He decided then and there that he would have justice and make Madara pay for all the crimes that he had committed against Konoha and his family. Kyuubi was startled out of her morose thoughts when she felt a hand trying to pry her hand apart. She looked up to see that Naruto was kneeling down in front of her, his eyes filled with determination. None of it was your fault, Kyuubi-chan, and for what it's worth I don't blame you even a tiny little bit for that night. Kyuubi stared into his eyes, searching for a tiny bit of deception, any hint that this was not how he truly felt. The only thing shining in his eyes were compassion and honesty. Kyuubi couldn't handle it anymore. She flung herself at him and began crying hysterically onto his shoulder. To his credit, Naruto just held her close and let her cry. His own tears soon joined in. They held onto each other for a long time, drawing comfort from each other. Naruto was happy that he finally found someone that he could call a friend. Someone that would acknowledge him, support him and be there for him in general. Kyuubi was happy that she had finally gotten through to Kushina's son. She had promised herself long ago that she would be there for him. What her role was supposed to be in his life she didn't know, but she knew that she needed to teach him to protect himself. She was appalled at his treatment by the hands of the villagers. She had vowed that she would make them pay, whether directly or indirectly. So what do we do now, Kyuubi-chan? Naruto said while brushing off her tears. First I will have to implant the Sharingan and after that we begin your training. Kyuubi replied, blushing at the contact. It would be best if you went to sleep for the implant, Naruto-kun, it will hurt for a while. After all, it's not just the eyes that need to change. I am going to alter your forming chakra pathways so that you can use the Sharingan to its full capacity. Kyuubi said as she closed her eyes and sent out her chakra in short bursts into the still forming chakra pathways and into the walls surrounding them. Naruto got up and walked away from the cage. With one last look at her, Naruto fell into a deep sleep. Hijiran Sarutobi, the Sandaime Hokage of Konoha, the village considered to be the strongest of the 5 hidden villages, was currently cursing his longtime enemy, paperwork. The damn thing seemed to multiply itself over time. Finished with reading the current paper on tax, he sighed, lit his trusty pipe and left his mind to wander. As was often the case, his mind wandered to Naruto Uzumaki, the container of the Kyuubi no Kitsune. He wondered how he was doing. It had been approximately 6 months since he had entered the academy. The boy had the potential to be one of the strongest ninja of Konoha. After all, he was the heir to 2 bloodline. Kushina was never forthcoming about her bloodline but was one of the best Anbu that had served under Konoha. Whether this had to do with her bloodline or her sheer hard work, he did not know. He was distracted out of his thoughts when he felt someone hurrying towards him. His door burst open and a dog-masked Anbu entered his office. Hokage-sama, there is someone at Naruto's apartment. We have detected an unknown chakra signature in the area. Tenzo is there at the moment. Sarutobi immediately signaled Inu Dog to follow him and quickly performed a leaf sunshin teleportation towards Naruto's apartment. The sight that greeted him left him flabbergasted. Naruto's whole apartment looked as if a tornado had blown through it. And in the center of it all was Naruto, seemingly asleep. Tenzo was there surveying the apartment and searching for clues, residual chakra, burn marks, etc. Tenzo report. Sarutobi ordered authoritatively. This looks as an attack, but the chakra signature matches Uzumaki-san's, but that would mean that he has successfully accessed his chakra. The chaos is a direct result of the event. Tenzo bowed slightly, indicating that he was done with his report. Sarutobi closed his eyes for a moment. Inu, take Naruto to the Anbu hospital. Stay with him until further notice. I will meet you in the morning. Tenzo, return to your post. Go. Inu picked up Naruto, put him on his back and jumped out the window. Sarutobi was racked with a sudden sense of guilt. He had decided against telling Naruto that he had a godmother. His old student, Senju Tsunade, was named as the godmother of young Naruto as soon as he was born. After the Kyuubi attack, he had lied to her and said that Naruto was killed during the sealing process. He had known that Tsunade would not consent to stay in the village and would take Naruto away from the village. Sarutobi couldn't allow that. Naruto would give pause to other countries that would otherwise attack the village due to its low strength. So he had put aside his emotions and acted in the best interests of the village, unknowingly damning a young orphan boy to a horrible childhood. Maybe it's time that she was told the truth. Looking around at the apartment, a single thought crossed his mind. I'm getting too old for this shit. Time skip. The next morning. Naruto woke up groggily, yawned, stretched, looked around at his room and froze. All that he saw was white. No colors whatsoever. This definitely was not his room. He began panicking slightly, and got up with a jerk. His head was throbbing in pain. Calm down, Naruto-kun, said a voice in his head. Kyuubi-chan. Naruto looked around, swiveling his head from one direction to other, trying to search for her. Yes. I'm talking in your mind, Naruto-kun. Just think what you want to speak to me. I'm so glad that it wasn't a dream. I don't think I would have been able to handle the disappointment. I'm never going to leave you, Naruto-kun. Before Naruto could reply, his attention was drawn towards a corner of the room. He felt as if he were being watched. He began staring his, by now, patented stare at the corner. Sometime later he saw as the air seemed to shimmer for a moment before a teenage boy stood in front of him. He was dressed in a standard Anbu outfit with a red scarf around his neck that hung up to his mid-back. He was wearing a dog mask. How did you know I was there? He asked, and then he seemed to realize something, shook his head and asked, how are you feeling? Do you remember what happened? Naruto just stared at him and said in a soft voice, I need to speak to Hokage-sama. Saying that, Naruto slept back in his bed and turned his back towards him. So Kyuubi-chan, did it work? Did what work, Naruto-kun? Kyuubi replied teasingly. You know, the Sharingan implant, Naruto whined. Kyuubi giggled. Naruto-kun is so cute. Wait, what? Yes, the implant worked perfectly, and I was even able to enhance your original bloodlines as well. Your father's bloodline will grant you regeneration as well as what it was capable of doing earlier. There was not much left to enhance in your mother's bloodline, but I still fed it my power, so there might be some changes. But we'll get to that later. How are you feeling? My whole body aches, especially my joints. And my head is throbbing like hell. Don't worry, I'm sure you will feel better in a few hours. Now remember, Naruto-kun, you cannot tell anyone about me. They wouldn't understand and would think that I am somehow influencing your thoughts and have taken over your body. You don't deserve to be treated like this, Kyuubi-chan. It doesn't matter what the villagers think of me. As long as you are willing to put up with me, I will be satisfied. I don't put up with you, Kyuubi-chan. I quite like your company, as short as it has been. Thank you, Naruto-kun. So then I just have to ask Oji-san about my parents, and to get access to their mansion, correct? Yes, Naruto-kun. Now if you don't mind, I need to catch up with my sleep. I'm exhausted after yesterday's activities. But don't hesitate to wake me up if you need help. Sure, Kyuubi-chan, sleep tight. Naruto let his mind wander about inconsequent things, and eventually fell asleep as well. Naruto slept the whole day and through the night. When he woke up the next day, he saw that he was still in the hospital. He looked around and saw the Hokage smiling down at him. Good morning, Naruto-kun. How are you feeling today? Sarutobi asked, a kind smile on his face. Fine. Naruto mumbled. Is there something troubling you? He asked. I found out about my parents. You lied to me, Oji-san, Naruto said with an accusatory glance. How did you find out? Sarutobi asked in a shocked voice. I saw my birth certificate in the trash outside your office. That's impossible. Naruto shrugged. It doesn't matter. You have to tell me about my parents, Oji-san. You owe me. Tell me what you know, Naruto-kun. I know that the Yondaime was my dad and my mother's name was Kushina Uzumaki, Anbu commander and also known as the Red Death of Konoha, Naruto said staring at the Sandaime. I guess that I don't have any other choice. Yes, Naruto, I lied to you about your parents because they were both very famous and powerful people. Over their respective careers as a ninja they had accumulated a lot of enemies. If it were to get out that you were their legacy, you would be assassinated, Sarutobi stated flatly. Sarutobi knew that he was being harsh with his words, but, now that he knew there was no sugar-coating the truth. Either he would grow past it and continue their legacy or he would crumble under the pressure. Sarutobi genuinely hoped that Naruto would be able to rise up against the challenge. Can you tell me about my father's bloodline? Naruto asked with excitement rolling off him in waves. Sarutobi cursed his bad luck. Leave it up to Naruto to find out about one of the important village secrets in a trash can. All the information and belongings of your parents it sealed up at their home. I think that it is time that you moved out of the apartment. Sarutobi asked, ruffling his hair. Thank you, Oji-san, Naruto exclaimed. Time skip. 2 days. Naruto stood in front of the house that he was supposed to grow up in. It was located quite a ways inside the forest behind the Hokage mountain. The Sandaime had brought him here in the morning and had left him alone to enter the house. It was not a mansion as Kyuubi had described it, it was just a 2-storied apartment with 4 bedrooms with attached baths, a kitchen, a jutsu library, and an outdoor onsen. When he had asked Kyuubi where he was supposed to train, Kyuubi had refused to tell him, stating that she wanted to surprise him. Later that night Naruto had finally found information on his father's bloodline in the library. It didn't have a specific name as it didn't show any abnormal transformations or traits. But what it did was something that Naruto was drooling over. It basically allowed his body to never reach an upper cap on his power. While normal ninjas reach a point where they had reached their peak physical condition and had to make a choice between either speed or strength in battle, his bloodline would allow him to train both. It altered the density of his muscles, making them stronger but not increasing their weight by much. That's amazing, Naruto-kun. Now I have no doubt that along with my regenerative abilities you will be able to become strong in a very short time. By the time you leave the academy you will definitely be able to hold your own against most Junin. That's amazing, Kyuubi-chan. Do you really think that it's possible? Don't ever doubt yourself, Naruto-kun. Kyuubi said fiercely. Believe in yourself. I am not saying that you won't make any mistakes, but I will help you push past them and learn from them. Naruto was filled with determination, to grow strong, to defeat anyone who opposes him, and to serve justice to Uchiha Madara. Time skip 6 months. Naruto was currently training in the secret training room that was below the apartment. He now understood why Kyuubi referred to his house as a mansion. The place was huge. It was under the apartment, underground. It had its entrance disguised as a footmat, and opened outwards on applying pressure correctly. The room was more than 64 square miles in area. There were trees, a lake and even a huge waterfall. The whole room was covered in seals. The seals served the dual purpose of strengthening the cavern and also to mask chakra usage. The lake was connected to the waterfall and also had seals that kept the water fresh. For the past 6 months Naruto, after coming home from another useless day at the academy, would begin his training that Kyuubi-chan had outlined for him. She had told him at the beginning of his training that his chakra pathways would take at the very least 5 months to stabilize and construct completely. It was due to his bloodline that he had to wait for such a long time. Add the fact that Kyuubi had added her own chakra to the mix, she didn't want to take any chances. Naruto was disappointed that he would not be able to learn any awesome jutsu. But Kyuubi had said that he would need to train his body before anything else. So he had done so. Every day Naruto would run for approximately 10 miles at a sprint and then perform stretches, sit-ups and other toning exercises. Then he would practice his punches and kicks on a tree. Although Naruto couldn't be sure, he was certain that he was the strongest in his class in terms of sheer physical strength. Even Choji, who belonged to the Akamichi clan, was a little weaker than him. His reflexes were top-notch, but he had no way of estimating his speed. Naruto was anxious to get home after today's class. He would begin using his chakra today and really start training. It was very difficult not to use his chakra, but Kyuubi was always able to keep him in check. Kyuubi-chan, I'm home now, Naruto thought as he walked into his apartment. I know, Naruto-kun. So are you excited? You bet I am. I have been waiting since forever to use my chakra. Now listen carefully, Naruto-kun. Before you manifest your own sword, you need to build up your control and your reserves. It will help you to gain a powerful sword, since it is directly related to your own strength. The more powerful you are, the more powerful the sword. So I need to be an adult to get maximum benefits. Naruto asked, unable to keep the disappointment out of his voice. No, Naruto-kun, from what I know, your mother said that not many people from her clan were able to gain their sword. It can only be done before you reach the age of 10. After that, your bloodline remains dormant throughout your life and you become a carrier for your bloodline. So I only have 2 years to get as strong as possible and get my sword. Naruto asked. Yes, although the process of gaining your sword itself will take about 2 months. So what are we waiting for? Let's get started. Finish your regular training first. We aren't skipping things, we are just adding on to them. Naruto groaned. You are so mean to me, Kyuubi-chan. Kyuubi giggled. After completing his exercises, Naruto took a bath in the lake and putting on some clothes he went to a clearing which had grass on it and was surrounded by trees. He sat down in a meditative position and concentrated. He tried to bring out the same feeling that he had felt nearly 6 months ago. He found it taking considerably less time than the last time he tried it. Naruto couldn't be sure, but he felt that it was much stronger than last time though. Much more stronger. He tried bringing it out like last time and found that it was practically impossible to do. No matter how much he concentrated, he couldn't do it. Stop trying to bring it out, Naruto-kun. Calm yourself down and try to sense your power. Hear it, try to feel it flow throughout your body. Kyuubi said in a soft and hypnotizing voice. Naruto controlled his breathing, focusing simply on Kyuubi's voice. He could feel it. His chakra flowing throughout his body, inside his muscles, his head, everywhere. Naruto didn't know how long he sat there, but by the time he was done it was already dark inside the training room. How do you feel, Naruto-kun? Kyuubi asked softly. I feel it great, Kyuubi-chan, it's an amazing feeling. Naruto replied softly. Congratulations, Naruto-kun, your chakra pathways have been fully developed. I can finally start teaching you. Kyuubi said enthusiastically. Now then, there is a simple way for you to learn jutsu, practice your chakra control, and catch up on your reading, learning taijutsu stances and anything related to memory while simultaneously working on your body. It will speed up the process of learning drastically. Kyuubi said smugly. How is that possible, Kyuubi-chan? I am going to teach you a kinjutsu, forbidden technique, known as Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, shadow clone technique. It creates solid clones instead of the normal illusions that are taught at the academy. What do you mean by solid clones, Kyuubi-chan? These clones can interact with the environment, can be used as labor, for sparring and practicing taijutsu and basically anything that you want them to do. So how are they supposed to help with my training? Ah, now that is something that you need to experience on your own to understand. Let's get started. Now Naruto-kun, come inside your mindscape and I will show you how to do the technique. Naruto concentrated and in no time was standing in the same corridor that he had been visiting for the past 6 months. The pipes that were present now were solid looking and had a dark blue, almost black tint to it. The walls were a brilliant white, Something that Naruto was still uncomfortable with, it reminded him too much of a hospital. He walked towards the cage and smiled slightly at seeing Kyuubi laying on the grass just staring at him with a soft smile on her face. Naruto had changed the interior of the cage to resemble his apartment, including the training room. Naruto walked up to Kyuubi and held out his hand to her. Kyuubi smiled up at him, took his hand and they started to walk towards the training room. When they reached the room, Kyuubi explained to him the mechanics of the jutsu and showed him the single hand seal required for it. Naruto began practicing the technique and after an hour was confident that he could perform the technique in controlled circumstances. Naruto, who was panting slightly having exhausted himself trying to learn the kage bunshin. Kyuubi was observing his progress and was feeling quite proud of the blonde. He had managed to learn a Junin level technique in a very short time. He was definitely a genius. Looks like you have a firm grasp on the technique. Return to the apartment and try it out in the real world. Naruto nodded, walked up to Kyuubi, hugged her and walked away waving at her, saying, "See you later tonight, Kyuubi-chan." Kyuubi just stared after him, her face tomato red. She was now certain that she had definitely fallen for her container. She had been feeling funny in his presence ever since she met him and she could now say that she loved him with absolute certainty. Kyuubi shook her head and banished such thoughts. After all, her Naru-kun was nowhere near ready to handle a relationship, but she would be damned if she didn't push for it. Naruto opened his eyes and found himself in his favorite clearing. He got up and brought his hands in a single seal and muttered, "Kage bunshin no jutsu." The clearing was surrounded by smoke and suddenly Naruto was surrounded by nearly 200 clones. Alright, listen up. I need 10 of you to go to the library and read through this year's academy books. 50 of you go and start studying sealing, the rest of you do the leaf balancing exercise. Several clones nodded in his direction and began working. In the meantime, Naruto was going through the katas for his taijutsu style, Shadow Fist. It was a style that preferred speed over power and consisted primarily of redirecting attacks and counter-attacking. In its advanced form, it had many forms and techniques that used pressure and vacuum in order to inflict damage onto his opponents. It was difficult to master, as it required the user to remain calm in order to attack successfully. Naruto had a lot of trouble remaining calm at first. He had always been hyperactive and full of energy. But a few long sessions of training calmed him down considerably. Now that he was beginning to learn how to use chakra, he would be able to use fuinjutsu, sealing arts, to help with his training. He had read his father's journal about his life and had come across many interesting ideas that his father had. He particularly liked the idea of a resistance seal and also a chakra seal. The resistance seal was designed to offer resistance to every movement that the user made. It was a very effective method of training the body. They were much better than training using weights, as the weights generally only developed only one aspect and didn't offer overall development. With the resistance seal, he would not only be training his strength and speed, but also his reflexes and response time. The downside of using the seal was the fact that it used up very large amounts of chakra. Kyuubi had said that he had more than enough chakra to power the seal. The chakra seal was similar to the resistance seal, that it limited the chakra available to the user. The extra chakra was redirected to power the seal itself. Naruto planned on applying the seals on his body tomorrow. He had been reading up on them and practicing the seal design on a dummy for nearly 2 months. With the help of his clones, he was confident that it would work. As the clones were practicing floating leaves, he continued with his katas. After completing his set, he created a few clones and started his spar. He quickly realized 2 facts. While the clones were not as fast or as strong as him, their numbers compensated for that fact wonderfully. He was quickly overwhelmed and was being smacked around all over the place. Right. No sparring against multiple clones yet. Naruto wheezed. His clones smirked against him and Naruto promptly dispelled them. He reviewed his fight and tried to discern any faults in his fighting style. This was very difficult as he was reviewing his own mistakes and it was hard to see yourself making them. Several hours later, after Naruto had dispelled the clones in groups of 20, he went up to his apartment and started cooking dinner. He didn't use a clone to do this, as it was during this time that he reviewed the day past and made plans for the next day. He was supposed to start a new year at the academy tomorrow and would be changing classes. He had never really made any friends in his class this past year, and although he was not alone anymore, he still wanted some friends. He just hoped that he wouldn't have to share classes with the emo Uchiha anymore. Naruto was sick and tired of his superiority complex. Granted that the Uchiha was much better than others his age, but Naruto was sure that he could beat him, no sweat. Still, Naruto refrained from doing so, as he understood that beating the last true Uchiha would only attract attention towards him. The villagers practically worshipped the ground that the Uchiha walked on. Naruto woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning and got out of his bed. The previous night he and Kyuubi had gone over the academy jutsus that he had read about in the library. Although not of much use in the way of fighting except for the substitution technique, Kawamiri, the transformation henge, would help with his shopping and when he was walking in the village. It wouldn't fool many of the junins and skilled chunins, but they never really hated him all that much to begin with. He would now be able to buy his supplies in the village without being harassed. As Kyuubi expected, even with his chakra control exercises, Naruto simply had too much chakra to create an illusionary clone. Kyuubi had said that no matter how good he got with his control, some lower ranked jutsus would always be out of his reach due to the potency of his chakra. He showered and put on some underwear. Then he created some clones and lay down on the bed. The clones picked up his sealing supplies and started applying the resistance seal on him. The application of the seal took nearly an hour to complete, and on completion, Naruto had to let the seal ink soak into his skin properly and dry. An hour later, his clones applied the chakra seal on him as well. The seals were made of a special ink that used the blood of the user and would fade into the skin when dried. Naruto didn't activate the seals as he had to start a new class at the academy today. However, he did activate the chakra seal. As soon as he activated the seal, he felt as if all his power was sucked out of him at once. He felt more tired than he had ever felt in his life. Knowing that this feeling would pass, and he would have to get used to it, he got ready for the academy. He wore a simple black t-shirt with blue shorts that had 3 thin vertical orange stripes on the sides. He was also wearing black ninja sandals that were given to him as a gift by his Oji-san. Naruto walked down the street, ignoring everyone else. He would generally leave as soon as he got up, in order to avoid the crowd. He would then practice in the academy training grounds and would stop well before anyone would show up. Today, however, he was subjected to the usual harsh glares and spiteful comments. Excuse me. A voice startled Naruto and he looked up to see a girl near his own age standing in front of him. The first thing that he notices about her was her hair. It was a light red color and was extremely long. It reached to her hips and was tied in a ponytail. She was dressed in a simple blue-colored dress that ended at her knees. She was smiling slightly at him. She had emerald green eyes. Naruto immediately noticed that her eyes didn't hold the same hatred and distrust that Naruto associated with the younger generation. That earned her a few points in his book. How may I help you? Naruto asked politely. Do you know where the ninja academy is? She asked. Before Naruto could reply, an Uchiha, part of the police force of Konoha, stepped in between them. Get lost, scum. Before I arrest you for harassment, he shouted at him. The girl tried to speak up in his defense, but quietened down when she noticed him shake his head a little. Naruto glared at the Uchiha, careful not to leak out his killing intent ki. Naruto just walked past him and continued on his way to the academy. I wonder who she was. Naruto entered the academy and proceeded towards the board with the new classes. He found his name and walked directly to the class. He was feeling tired after applying the chakra seal and promptly laid his head on the desk and slept. Naruto woke up when he sensed that there was someone entering the room. The 2 years that he had spent on the streets had given him acute senses that were further refined by his training. He looked up to see a ninja come in who was garbed in a standard chunin of Konoha uniform. He had black hair that was tied in a ponytail, dark black eyes and a scar across the bridge of his nose. Naruto looked away as soon as he noticed that he was about to look up at him, and closed his eyes, remaining alert. Naruto opened his eyes when he felt someone take the seat next to him. It was the same girl that had asked for the directions to the academy earlier. She smiled at him and introduced herself. "Hi, my name is Mei Terumi." She held out her hand at him expectantly. "Naruto Uzumaki," he replied shortly. Naruto was confused. Didn't she know who he was? "The ramen topping?" she asked, holding back her amusement. "Hey, it also means maelstrom, I'll have you know," Naruto said. "Sure," she mocked. "All right class, quiet down." The same instructor that had come in earlier said. "My name is Yumino Iruka, and I will be your instructor for the next 4 years. As per the orders of the Hokage, this class will remain the same for the coming years." Naruto let out a frustrated sigh after hearing that tidbit of information. He had noticed that Sasuke was in this class as well. There were also an unusually high number of clan heirs in this class. He had noticed that when he had read the class roster. There was Yamanaka Ino, Nara Shikamaru, Akamichi Choji, Hyuga Hinata, Inuzuka Kiba, Aburame Shino, and the King Imo Uchiha Sasuke. The class was full of ninjas that had a fighting chance to graduate. Naruto was sure that the Hokage had been the one who had decided the class placements. The academy teachers would never consent to him being in this class. However, there was one person that piqued his curiosity. Her name was Uchiha Sakiko. Apparently she was the twin sister of Sasuke. At a glance he could say that she was nothing like her stuck-up brother, but Naruto would reserve his judgment for when he got to know her properly. The day passed in the same fashion as the previous years, with one glaring difference. Mei, who was apparently bored, would engage him in conversation. As the day progressed, he came to know that she was from Kurigakure, hidden village in the mist, and was forced to flee her home when the Mizukage ordered his ninjas to kill all the persons possessing any bloodline. She was able to escape, and luckily was found by a Konoha Anbu returning from his mission. He had taken her with him, and on her arrival at Konoha, the Hokage was gracious enough to allow her to enter the academy to become a ninja. Naruto had skillfully dodged her own questions, that he was uncomfortable in answering, and redirected the conversation. At the end of the day, Naruto was surprised when he came to know that she had been given his old apartment by the Hokage to stay at. They went their own way after the academy. Naruto was contemplating his day as he walked towards his house. Naruto really felt that he would like to have Mei as his friend, but he would not get his hopes up. Naruto proceeded to his training room. He took a few deep breaths and calmed himself, and then activated his resistance seal. He immediately felt as if he was standing in quicksand. It was even a little more difficult to breathe. He channeled chakra to the seal in order to make it visible and created a few clones to help see if the seal was applied correctly. There was a single-digit number at the center of his chest. It was currently showing the value, 01. This number indicated the level that the resistance seal was set at. There were a total of 25 levels. According to his father's journal, he was at 18 when he had stopped using the seal. He hadn't written down the reason why he had stopped, just that he did. After a few minutes, he dispelled his clones and reviewed the memories that he received. Nodding satisfactorily, he collected as much chakra as he could and whispered, "Kage Bunshin." There was a puff of smoke and he counted about 100 clones. The reduced number of clones was a direct effect of the chakra seal. Although it would limit the amount of chakra flowing through him, its benefits were undeniable. And Kyuubi had informed him that he would need a lot of chakra in order to reach his potential. The chakra seal also had the advantage of increasing one's chakra control. The chakra seal would disrupt the flow of chakra through his coils, and thus, he would need a higher level of control in order to use his jutsu. He ordered his clones to practice the leaf floating exercise for a few hours and then proceed on to tree walking. The feet were said to be hardest place to channel one's chakra. In order to do the tree walking exercise, he would need to apply a small precise amount of chakra to his feet in order to stick to the tree's surface. Too much and he would be blown off, too little and he would not stick altogether. As the clones started their work, Naruto began his physical workout. Naruto barely completed half of his exercises before he collapsed in exhaustion. This didn't deter Naruto, however, and he continued doing his exercises until he passed out. Time skip. 1 month. 1 month had passed since Naruto had met Mei, and Naruto was proud to call her his friend. He had expected her to hate him after she came to know about him from others and saw the way others treated him. He had asked her this very fact and was surprised by her answer. She said that she knew the pain of living alone, without friends, without anyone to support and praise them. It was how the persons who had a bloodline were treated in Kurigakure. Naruto had looked at her with a blank stare for a while and had surprised her with a hug. After the academy, they used to often study and play together. Naruto helped Mei in unlocking her chakra, and showed her how to do the leaf floating exercise. Mei's chakra network was completed after only a week and they had started doing the exercises together. But even after training with Mei, Naruto would still continue on with his own training. Naruto had also noticed that Kyuubi had changed somewhat in the past month. Whenever they would talk, she would lean into his side and rest her head on his shoulder. She would hold his hand every chance she got and their hugs would last a little longer than normal. He had asked her about this, but she would only look away from him with a blush on her cheeks. After 1 month of steady improvement, Naruto felt that he could perform all his exercises at the same level as before he applied his seal. He could also create approximately 200 clones now. He was mildly surprised that he was progressing this fast, but Kyuubi had explained to him that his chakra was being augmented by her Yukai and his bloodline from his father that had been augmented by her to include regenerative abilities, helped to make the muscles heal faster. Every week he would release both his seals and practice throughout the day to get a feel for his true chakra levels, speed, strength, reflexes, etc. He planned to up his resistance seal today. It was a holiday today and it would give him a full day to get used to the new level of resistance. Every consecutive level of the seal would offer twice the amount of resistance than the one before it. He ran around his training ground a few times to get a feel for the new resistance. He then created a few clones and started sparring. Elsewhere, Tsurumi Mei was currently wandering around the village thinking of her blonde friend Naruto Uzumaki. It had been barely a month since she had come to Konoha and met him. She could honestly say that she had never been happier in her life. Granted, her life had never been full of sunshine and flowers earlier, but she truly believed that had she not been his friend she would not be this happy. He was someone who could relate to her pain. Over the past month, she had trained with him often and soon realized one thing. Naruto was much more powerful than he portrayed at the academy. When she had asked about this, Naruto had just shrugged and said that his life would be easier this way. She understood this somewhat. Naruto would help her with exercises and practicing chakra control. This morning, Mei had come to a startling realization. Although Naruto had visited her apartment many times over the past month, either to study or walking her to her home after a particularly hard day of exercising. So, she had gone to the Hokage and asked him where Naruto lived. The Hokage had seemed surprised at her question but told her the address nevertheless. When she reached the place, she saw that Naruto's place was a lot better than she expected. Shrugging, she walked into the walkway leading to the front door and knocked twice. With Naruto. Naruto was currently hanging upside down on the ceiling of the training room while sparring. This improved his concentration and also his chakra control. He was currently sparring against 2 of his clones. This was a very effective exercise as the clones which he created didn't have the resistance seal on them and it made up for their deficit in speed and strength. He ducked beneath an overhead swipe and turning on his heels planted his foot firmly in the back of the clone, dispelling it. As soon as he righted himself, he had to defend against the second clone that had charged up to him, his hand held in a claw-like gesture. Knowing how painful that particular strike could be, he caught hold of the wrist and brought his other hand up and punched the clone in the throat. He heaved a tired sigh and walked down to the floor. As soon as he reached, however, he sensed a familiar chakra signature enter the house gates. Wondering about his visitor, he quickly exited the training ground and walked towards the door. Opening the door, he saw that Mei was standing in front of him smiling brightly. "Good morning, Naruto-kun," she greeted. "Good morning to you as well, Mei-chan," Naruto said, waving at her to come inside. "Started training already?" she asked, confused. "Yeah. So what's up? Do you know how to swim?" Mei asked. No actually," Naruto said, being caught off guard with her question. "Why do you ask?" "Well, back in Kiri I used to swim a lot. I really enjoy swimming, and was wondering if you would like to come with me." "Sure, I would like to accompany you, if you would teach me how to swim," Naruto said sheepishly. "Of course I will teach you, after all, what are friends for?" "Mei. Thank you, Mei-chan." After Naruto had grabbed a couple of towels and spare clothes, they proceeded toward the outskirts of the village to a place that Mei had discovered was a great place for swimming. It was a small secluded lake nearly a mile across and was surrounded by rocks on one side and dense trees on the other. The water was clear and reflected the morning sun off the surface brilliantly. Mei took off her clothes, leaving her dressed in a simple dark blue one-piece swimsuit that had frills made in flower designs on it. Naruto tried very hard not to stare at her and busied himself with taking his clothes off. Mei, on the other hand, was flustered herself. Naruto-kun's body was toned beyond perfection. There wasn't a trace of fat on his body and his stomach was absolutely flat and toned. The way his arm muscles flexed as he took off his t-shirt sent butterflies in her stomach. She blushed a brilliant shade of red as she realized that she was staring. She immediately turned away from him and dived into the lake in order to hide her face. She swam halfway to the lake and came back to see Naruto looking at her intently. "Shish. Shall we get started?" she asked, flustered. "Sure, sensei," Naruto smiled. Mei spent half an hour of her time explaining breathing techniques and strokes in swimming. Then she spent a couple of hours teaching him how to swim. Naruto was a quick learner and was slowly swimming alongside Mei. "Wow, I've never seen anyone learn to swim this quickly before, Naruto-kun. You weren't kidding when you said that you didn't know how to swim, were you?" Mei asked. Naruto chuckled and got out of the water. Changed into new clothes and said, "I'll get us something to eat, Mei-chan, any preferences?" How about some dango?" Mei answered. "Sure. Be right back, Mei-chan." Saying that, Naruto took off at a leisurely pace towards the village and using a quick henge was able to buy some dango and chocolates for them. He walked back to the clearing that Mei was waiting for him at. He looked towards where she was sitting at and immediately was put on edge seeing her surrounded by 3 kids that were a year senior in their academy. He was about to jump in when he saw Mei lash out with her foot at the person directly in front of her. Naruto winced as he saw him go down, clutching his hands to the affected area. After kicking, Mei had turned towards the kid on her right and punched him in the face. The third person backed away fearfully and with a last glance at Mei's glaring face, ran off screaming. "Nice work, Mei-chan," Naruto chuckled. Mei whirled around and saw Naruto laughing. "When did you get back, Naruto-kun?" she asked. "Long enough to know not to get on your bad side," Naruto said seriously, subconsciously holding his legs close together. Mei giggled slightly, noticing this. "Come on. Let's go to my house, it's nearer," Mei said. They spent the rest of the day just talking and spending time with each other. They had decided that they would go for a couple of hours of swimming every day after they were finished with their exercises. They had enjoyed the day together immensely and were looking forward to more days such as this. As night began to fall, Naruto proceeded towards his apartment and resumed his own training. As he slept that night, he had to put up with the relentless teasing of Kyuubi. Even when she was teaching him, she would pass a comment insinuating something perverted and Naruto would be left spluttering, not able to form a response. Naruto was now proficient enough in his taijutsu. He had learned all the forms and could perform all the katas flawlessly. He would just need to keep on practicing it to achieve mastery. Kyuubi had said that he was ready to begin training in elemental ninjutsu. Kyuubi had said that he would first need to find out his elemental affinity using chakra paper. Naruto remembered finding some along with the sealing supplies and made a note to check it sometime tomorrow. He had asked Kyuubi when his Sharingan would be activated, and Kyuubi had explained that he would need to be in a tough fight for him to activate it. It couldn't be done during training and sparring. He had asked where he would find a strong opponent to fight against. He couldn't ask a Konoha ninja to do it. If the villagers were to find out, there would be nothing stopping them from attacking him anymore. After they had finished training, Naruto lied down on the base of a tree and was surprised when Kyuubi lied down beside him. He went to sleep with a content smile on his face. Naruto woke up feeling warm and happy inside. He was filled with excitement to begin a new stage of his training. After he had mastered some techniques for each of his affinities, he would then train in shape manipulation and eventually nature manipulation. After he had completed that, he would be able to create new techniques and would allow him to perform some of the ninjutsus without hand signs. He entered the room that he used for storing the sealing supplies and after some time found a wad of paper that he recognized as chakra paper. He took out one and channeled some of his chakra into it. The paper was torn to shreds, with half of it crumpling into minuscule particles and the rest turning to water and falling down, no traces left whatsoever of the original paper. Naruto was surprised. To even have an affinity at this age was rare. To have 3, and as he suspected very high affinities, was unheard of. Wow! Naruto couldn't help the exclamation that left his lips. Looks like you have 3 chakra affinities, Naruto-kun, and powerful affinities too. You will need to train really hard in order to master them. Kyuubi said. I thought that you were asleep, Kyuubi-chan. Weren't you up the whole night, right? Naruto asked. Kyuubi would generally sleep during the day, and would train Naruto at night. I got to sleep some after you fell asleep. Now then, go to the library and pick at least one jutsu to learn for each element. C-rank jutsus will do. I'll try to help you with them later. Good night, Naruto-kun, Kyuubi said. Good night, Kyuubi-chan, sweet dreams. Naruto then proceeded towards the library. He had long ago organized the library according to what the scrolls contained. There was a section on ninjutsu, taijutsu, genjutsu, kinjutsu, kenjutsu and other miscellaneous scrolls. The ninjutsu section was further divided into jutsus aligned with the 5 main elements and another for ninja skills. Chakra control exercises and such were placed in this section. The library didn't have any books on fuinjutsu, they were all placed in a separate room. Naruto spent the next few hours browsing through the various jutsus that he could learn. He eventually selected 3, they worked well individually and were great follow-up jutsus. Naruto grinned, he was steadily getting stronger and was closer to achieving his goal. Kyuubi had told him to learn the jutsus himself and then use his clones to perfect and master it. She had said that if he would always use his clones to learn things, it would not develop his learning ability and hinder his perceptive skills. Naruto had given thought to her advice and eventually agreed to it. It took Naruto a full month to get the 3 jutsus chosen by him down. After being able to do the jutsus competently, he would make some extra clones and then they would practice doing the jutsu. Since the clones would use up the chakra available to them in a short while, mostly after performing the jutsu twice or in some cases thrice, he needed to repeatedly make new clones. This further helped him in increasing his chakra reserves. His reserves were now around mid-Anbu level with high genin control. He had gotten more fluid with his taijutsu style and was now able to fight against 3 clones at a time. His spars now also included ninjutsu as the clones would sometimes do them to catch him off guard. Naruto was happy that he had completed his taijutsu training before they started instructing them at the academy, as learning 2 styles at once was not recommended. He had decided that he would follow the academy taijutsu style during practices and would keep his primary style to himself. Naruto had noticed that the academy teachers would not teach him correct stances. The teachers for taijutsu were Naruto's previous teachers and always seemed to hate him with a passion. This didn't hinder him as Mei would teach him the correct stances when they got together to train. Naruto estimated that he would need another month to level up his resistance seal as he was not back up to his usual speed with it yet. For strength training, Naruto had begun carrying heavy loads while doing his exercises. He would need to buy weights as soon as he could. He had started on the water walking exercise, and it had taken him 2 days to do it. He was now using his clones to practice it further. He had continued on his swimming exercises and was now as good as May was. She had pouted cutely the first time he had beaten her in their many races. He had incorporated swimming in his own training exercise and would often use it to wind down after his rigorous physical training regimen. Naruto was feeling the need to test his abilities against someone. Training all the time was all well and good, but he needed to see how far he had come. True strength only comes out in the heat of battle. Although May was strong for their age, she was not anywhere near his level. He wasn't being arrogant in his abilities, just brutally honest. He would spar with Kyuubi, but he couldn't get hurt or hurt someone inside his mindscape. This was very good for learning but not for training and battle simulation. Kyuubi estimated him at mid-chunin with all his seals off. He was currently going towards the academy running on the rooftops at a slow pace. He had an uneasy feeling ever since he woke up this morning. He would glance around warily as if he was searching for soon as he reached, however, and Anbu stepped in front of him and handed him a scroll before using Sunshin to get away. Naruto read the scroll that was apparently meant for him. Naruto-kun, meet me at the tower after you're done for the day. Hijiran Sarutobi, Sandame Hokage. Naruto wondered what it was about. Normally he would just come meet him at his house. Shrugging, Naruto went to his class. He spotted May and raising a hand in greeting walked towards her. They were surprised that day when Iruka-sensei said that they would be having a class evaluation today. The class evaluation consisted of 2 parts: a written exam and the physical. Since they had been taught the basic form of taijutsu, spars were organized as a method to determine scores. Naruto breezed through the written test. He was reading much more complex materials than, what was the Nadaime Hokage's name? The class was then escorted outside to the training grounds. They were paired up according to their names and Naruto was stuck with a random civilian student. Naruto sighed. It seems that he couldn't catch a break. Nevertheless, he was carefully observing the fights were taking place. The Uchiha twins were placed together. No surprise, they had the same last name. But as he was observing the match, he narrowed his eyes. Sasuke was unnecessarily beating her up. Is that all you can do, Sakiko? Sasuke sneered. Sakiko just glared at him. She got into her fighting stance shakily but didn't have time to react as Sasuke was immediately on the offensive. He ducked under her clumsy punch and slammed his hand into her stomach, causing her to wheeze, quickly spun around and kicked her in the back, sending her flying from the ring. TCH, useless, you are not worthy of carrying the Uchiha name. You should just quit being a ninja before you further shame the name of the Uchiha clan. You who cannot gain the true strength of the Uchiha is no sister of mine. Saying that, he walked away from her. Naruto saw her trying to get up. No one moved to help her. Naruto was surprised by this fact. How come the children treated 2 siblings from the same clan so differently? Naruto was faced with an internal conflict. Either to help Sakiko or to go batshit crazy on the arrogant bastards. Sighing, he calmed himself down and moved to help her up. Hey, can you stand? Naruto asked. Sakiko was breathing erratically, her breaths coming in short gasps. Naruto knelt down to her level and picked her up, placing her on his back. What are you doing? Put me down. She was having a hard time talking. You need to go to the hospital, I'm just taking you there. Naruto replied. I can walk, there myself, Sakiko stated. Sure you can, Naruto said as he tilted his head to the side to look at her. Sakiko was startled by the maturity and confidence that shone in his eyes. One look at them and she was sure that he would take her to the hospital, whether she wanted to or not. Resigning herself to her fate, she just rested her head on his shoulder and was lulled into unconsciousness by his steady running. It's not so bad, maybe he will agree to be my friend, she thought. Naruto felt her head droop over his shoulder slightly, and increased his speed. Using henge he entered the ninja hospital and asked for the nurse to help Sakiko. The nurse asked him to follow her and told him to tell her everything that he knew about her injuries. Naruto was very specific in his observations and told the nurse exactly what he had seen. If the nurse was surprised by his professionalism, she hid it well. I swear these ninjas get younger each day, she thought, shaking her head. Sakiko was promptly healed and the doctor told Naruto that she would be as good as new tomorrow. Naruto thanked the doctor, left a note for Sakiko and left the hospital as soon as possible. In his opinion, the less time he spent there the better. He then jumped up to the roofs and started heading to the academy. As he arrived, he saw that the class had finished the physical exam. He sighed, another fail for him. The teacher didn't allow him to enter the class. Naruto didn't argue with him on this. He just nodded shortly and left with a quick glance at Mei. Mei nodded back at him and smiled. Might as well see what Oji-san wanted to see me about. Naruto reached the Hokage tower and walked up the stairs. He sat down in the waiting room waiting for the Hokage to call him inside. He could hear a lot of shouting going on behind the closed doors, and Naruto wondered what was going on. Suddenly the floor shook and the doors were rattled with the force of whatever had shaken the floor. Come in, Naruto-kun. Naruto heard the voice of the Hokage call him. Naruto got up nervously and walked towards the doors. As soon as he entered the office he noticed that there were two other occupants in the room besides the Hokage. The older of the two women was blonde-haired, which was a couple of shades darker than his. She had a violet rhombus on her forehead. She had brown eyes that were looking at him with something Naruto recognized as sadness. Her blonde hair was tied into two loose ponytails using purple bands. The same color as the seal on her forehead. Except for her bangs, which were parted in the middle and fall down the sides of her face. She was wearing a grass-green robe with the kanji for gamble written in black on the back, inside a red circle. Underneath she was wearing a gray, kimono-style blouse with no sleeves, held closed by a broad, dark bluish-gray obi that matches her pants. She was also wearing open-toed sandals with low heels and polish on both her fingernails and toenails. Naruto had only taken a few seconds to make this observation and glanced over at the younger woman. She had shoulder-length black hair with bangs and dark eyes. She was wearing a long bluish-black kimono with white trimmings, held closed by a white obi, and open-toed sandals with low heels. She was also holding a pig that was dressed in red velvet and had a pearl necklace around its neck in her arms. Naruto stepped towards the Hokage and immediately noticed what had made the floor shake earlier. The Hokage's desk was suspiciously absent from its usual place and was instead resting on the far side of the wall, broken in at least 3 distinct pieces. Yes, Naruto-kun, please sit down, there is something that I think you need to know. This here is Senju Tsunade and her apprentice Shizune. Naruto nodded slightly at them and turned confused eyes towards the Hokage. Sarutobi sighed, looked directly at Naruto and said, Naruto-kun, Tsunade is your godmother. Naruto was frozen in place. He didn't know what to think, how to react. He just stared blankly at the Hokage with unseeing eyes. He got up, bowed politely and just left the office, stating that he needed to be alone for a while. Well, this could have gone better. Sarutobi stated, staring at the door. You think so? Tsunade snarled sarcastically, spun around and slammed the doors on her way out. The Hokage was sure that he would need to replace the door later. With Tsunade. Tsunade was trying really hard not to break down the damn Hokage tower. She little respect that she had for the position of Hokage was lost with her sensei's act of betrayal. She had arrived at Konoha late last night, tore her way into Sarutobi's room and yanked his head up in the air. She had calmed down later and demanded to know everything that he knew about her godson. Sarutobi had told her everything that he knew about Naruto's situation. Tsunade had come close to killing him at some points in the story and had looked down, hiding her eyes at some. Shizune was sobbing openly at the cruelty of Naruto's life. After Sarutobi had finished his tale, Tsunade had immediately gone towards Naruto's apartment. Shizune had caught up with her and told her to observe him first for a day. So they had spent the day observing him. She had to use her utmost skills to remain hidden from him, the first time she had been spotted as soon as she had entered his field of mental vision. The area around a person that he is completely aware of. Naruto had a field of awareness of about 10 meters as far as she could tell, any closer and he would begin to get restless. She was feeling very proud of her godson when she saw that he had helped out a girl in his class, when no one else would. She had been confused at first seeing him use henge to enter the hospital, but understood it afterwards. Her temper had reached its breaking point when she saw that the teacher had thrown him out of the class. She had immediately gone to the Hokage and began threatening him with death if he would stop her from taking him away from Konoha. She had been nervous of his reaction when he would find out about her being his godmother. She had seen that he didn't interact much with others his own age and only seemed to talk with a pretty girl that was always with him. She had been surprised when he had first met her. He had seemed to be evaluating her, as if he was going to fight her. She watched as he seemed to close off him emotions and walked away from the office. She had contemplated following him but held back, giving him time to sort out his own feelings. Her talking to him might just antagonize him towards her. With Naruto, Naruto didn't know how to feel at the moment. He had placed his absolute trust in his Oji, no Hokage-sama. It would take a long time for him to trust him again if ever. He wasn't sure about his godmother. Granted, it was not her fault for abandoning him, but she should have tried harder. He would deal with her later. He was too worked up to think clearly. He decided to go towards his Enmei's training field, the one with the lake. He took a few deep breaths and began running laps around the lake. Mei arrived after some time and immediately noticed that something was bothering her friend. He was distracted and was leaving openings in his style that she knew he wouldn't make usually. She signaled for him to stop, walked over to a tree stump and sat down beside it. She patted the ground next to her. Naruto hesitated for a few seconds and then sat down beside her. "What's bothering you, Naruto?" "It's nothing," Naruto replied immediately. "You need to talk about it, Naruto. I'm your friend, aren't I? Please tell me what's bothering you." Naruto just looked at her and then told her everything that had happened after he had entered the Hokage tower. "Well, in my opinion, you should give your godmother a chance, Naruto. She is someone that your parents trusted enough that they wouldn't mind raising you if something happened to them. But I can't just accept her into my life, Mei-chan. You know how I don't trust anyone, they always hurt you afterwards." Naruto felt completely betrayed by the Hokage. "I'm going to head home now, Mei-chan, see you tomorrow." Naruto tried smiling but it came out as a grimace. Mei watched sadly as Naruto walked away and prayed that everything would work out for him. As Naruto reached his apartment, he saw that Tsunade as well as Shizune was standing there waiting for him. Naruto glanced at Tsunade and was surprised to see that her eyes were slightly misty. Naruto sighed. He really couldn't place the blame on her. He realized that, but a childish part of him just couldn't let the grudge go. "Unless. Come inside, Tsunade-san." Tsunade nodded and they entered the apartment. Tsunade was surprised when he led her to his training ground. She looked at Shizune hoping that she could tell her what's going on, but she seemed to be as lost as she was. "Naruto, I'm real." Tsunade started. "We'll talk later, Tsunade-san. Right now I have a request to make." "What do you need, Naruto?" "Please fight me." "What? Why?" "I need to know something. After that I promise that we will talk." Naruto saw Tsunade hesitate for a moment before she shook her head resignedly and got into a loose fighting stance. Naruto shot at her directly. Tsunade had expected that and had brought her arm in a block to counter his punch. He doesn't look it, but the broth's strong. This continued for some time. Naruto realized that he would be getting nowhere with his seals on. His godmother seemed like she hadn't let her skill slip, being away from ninja life for these many years. Naruto backed away from her and back-flipped some distance away. Tsunade just waited for him to make his next move. Naruto brought his hands together in the ram seal and whispered, "Kai," release twice in quick succession. Nothing seemed to happen for a while, but then his chakra flared powerfully before he brought it back under his control. Tsunade watched in slack-jawed amazement as her godson stood there surrounded by his own chakra. Even ignoring the fact that it was visible clearly by the eye, its color was totally different from regular chakra. It was a very deep blue in color, it would almost appear black in insufficient light. And the amount, no academy student should have such reserves. They were at least Anbu level. Tsunade was getting worried for her godson. After all, he was barely 9 and as such his body shouldn't be developed enough to handle such amounts of chakra. Naruto, stop this at once, your body will not be able to handle such power. Tsunade said, hoping that he would stop immediately so that she could check on him. Who knows how long he had been practicing in the same manner. Don't worry Tsunade-san, I am more than capable of handling my own power. Naruto resumed the stance for his original taijutsu style, the shadow fist. Naruto charged at her again. The brat might be powerful, but he has a one-track mind. He needs to mix things up if he will ever win his battles, Tsunade thought, and again brought her hands up to block his strike. Just as it was going to connect, he vanished from her sights. Wah! Tsunade had almost no time to block Naruto, who was at her side in mid-motion for a punch. She blocked his strike, but slid a few steps back from the sheer power of the strike. God damn, the brat's punches are nothing to scoff at. Tsunade immediately channeled chakra into her muscles to help take blows, and reduce their effectiveness. They clashed with each other for approximately 5 minutes and Tsunade realized that she was finding it increasingly difficult to remain of the defensive. Naruto suddenly appeared beside her, right in her blind spot, and she reacted reflexively. She shot her hand forward, catching Naruto in the chest and sending him sprawling backwards. Oh no! Tsunade muttered and shot forward to check him. She stopped short, however, when he shakily got up on his feet. His eyes were covered by his hair and he seemed that he had passed out. Suddenly chakra exploded outwards from him. This chakra was definitely black in color, weaker than before but still enough. He lifted his face and looked directly at her. He then began going through hand signs and called out Futon, Datapa, wind release, great breakthrough. A concentrated blast of air headed towards Tsunade. She was so shocked that she didn't have time to put up her guard and was blasted back approximately 20 meters. I need to finish this fight fast. Tsunade muttered to herself. She then engaged him in taijutsu and using her advanced control sent a few bursts of lightning chakra into him. It would render him unable to move. Naruto slumped bonelessly to the ground and gazed up at her when she walked up to him. He smiled slightly at her, muttered, "You sure are strong, Ba-chan," and promptly slumped into unconsciousness. Shizune, get Naruto up to the bedroom. He needs to rest. Shizune, who wore an expression of awe and amazement on her face, just nodded mutely and picked Naruto up. She could hardly believe that an academy student had fought her sensei and fought damn well. Heck, she wondered who would win if she were to fight him. He looks too cute while sleeping. I can hardly believe that he was this strong. Tsunade followed Shizune upstairs and checked him over for some injuries. She observed that some of the small cuts and scrapes had already started healing and his muscles that were strained were starting to relax. Tsunade was amazed at the medical marvel that was taking place in front of her. She just tucked him in and with a last glance at him from the door, she headed downstairs, deciding that she would ask him what exactly happened today later. Naruto sat down with Tsunade the next morning and talked. They talked well past lunchtime and were able to understand each other much better. Naruto had spent the whole night ranting and raving at Kyuubi about what had happened that day, and although Kyuubi herself was angered that the Hokage would do something to Naruto, she realized that getting angry herself wouldn't help Naruto. So, she had listened patiently, told him her views on the matter, and just held him close to herself when she thought that he looked like he needed a hug. By the time Naruto woke up, he was considerably calmer and placed the blame where it belonged. He had decided that he would give his godmother a chance. It would be helpful for both him as well as her. Shizune had told Naruto of Tsunade's past before he had sat down to talk with her, and Naruto found out that he really couldn't blame her for leaving Konoha. Losing you fiancé, your brother and your godson to the same village tends to inspire such feelings towards the village. Naruto couldn't help but feel sympathetic and had ended the discussion with giving Tsunade a huge hug. So Naruto-kun, care to tell me why you wanted to fight me yesterday? Tsunade asked. I wanted to gauge my progress with my training, and also by fighting you I was able to stem my bad feelings towards you. Naruto replied honestly. Tsunade was surprised by the maturity shown by him. Then again, he had been living by himself for nearly a year now, so that had to account for something. I don't know if Sarutobi has told you yet, but the Kyuubi was not defeated by your father. Although he was strong, he couldn't defeat the Kyuubi decisively. So he, sealed her within me. I know. Naruto finished cutting across Tsunade's sentence. How do you know that? Kushina told me that Kyuubi was not what everyone believed it to be, and was actually a nice person, but its actions that day doesn't exactly reassure you. Tsunade said. Better get comfortable, Ba-chan. This is going to take some time. With that, Naruto began his explanation, starting from where he had been having strange dreams right up until yesterday morning. Tsunade was fuming at the life that Naruto had been living up until now. She was happy, however, that he seemed to have at least one friend. Naruto had then asked her if she would help him in his training. Tsunade had happily agreed to that. It was not as if she had anything better to do anyways. She could teach Shizune when Naruto was at the academy and Naruto when he got home. She knew that Naruto had to get strong as soon as possible, while keeping people in Konoha and thus everywhere ignorant of his true abilities. He needed to be at least Junin level before he could start showing his abilities. Then he would be able to hold off some of the people that would come after him, both due his history with Madara and due to the grudges against him due to his parents. As soon as she had received Sarutobi's letter, she had sent an urgent message to Jiraiya telling him and asking him to come to Konoha. He was supposed to be Naruto's godfather, but he had declined the position, stating that he was too valuable to Konoha as its spymaster and could better help Naruto by giving him valuable information. Tsunade had been both proud and angry at him after he made this comment. Proud of him, for actually thinking of his responsibilities before blindly accepting new ones, and angry at him, for putting Konoha above Naruto. After meeting Naruto and talking to him, she was glad that she had contacted him. Naruto would need any information that he could get, and Tsunade was certain that Jiraiya would have something for Naruto. Jiraiya would also be invaluable in teaching Naruto, while she was considered a Sannin as well as her teammates. The fact was that she was much more of a medic than a frontline fighter. She knew for a fact that she would lose against Jiraiya in a one-on-one fight, but it would be a cold day in hell before she let him know that. Naruto had all the markings of an incredible ninja, and she would make sure that her godson would achieve his potential, and surpass it if she had anything to say about it. Naruto was sitting down on the couch reading a random novel when he felt a familiar chakra signature on his doorstep. He was confused, however, by the second signature that was accompanying Mei. Naruto opened the door and came face to face with Mei and Sakiko. He was surprised by her presence here, but he smiled it off and invited both of them in. How are you feeling, Naruto-kun? You missed the academy today, Mei stated with a worried glance at her friend. Don't worry, Mei-chan, I sorted out my differences and am much happier than I was yesterday, Naruto stated. Naruto-san, I would like to thank you for your help yesterday, Sakiko said with a slight bow. Please stand up, Sakiko-san, I did what anyone should have done. But you are welcome. Naruto smiled at her. She asked me if she could train with us after the academy. I told her I didn't have a problem with it if you didn't, Mei stated cheerfully. Sakiko turned startled eyes towards Mei before she glanced at Naruto and looked at her feet. Of course you can join us, Naruto stated. Sakiko whipped her head up to look at him, surprise clearly evident in her eyes. I don't know why everyone ignores you. Even though you are an Uchiha, you are constantly overlooked, and I suspect that you don't like your brother much. Naruto ended his statement phrased as a question. Sakiko's eyes were brimming with unshed tears as she was reminded of her situation again. She was born with a defect that rendered her unable to ever gain the Sharingan, the Uchiha clan's pride. Growing up, she was constantly ignored by her father, and as he grew up, Sasuke. Itachi had always been pleasant to her, more so than to Sasuke, but he wasn't around the house much due to his Anbu duties. The only person that she could honestly say loved her unconditionally was her mother. She had joined the academy in the hopes of pleasing her father. She had done well for herself at the academy, but as time went on, she realized that she was steadily losing ground and would no longer be able to keep up with her brat. No, he had lost that title long ago, she would now only refer to him as Sasuke. She had wondered about that and had found out that he was being trained by her father after the academy. Approximately 4 months after she started at the academy, her whole clan had been massacred at the hands of her elder brother Itachi. She hadn't been present when it had happened. She was at the hospital, recovering after her spar with Sasuke. She had been devastated after she found out, not so much for the Uchiha clan as a whole, not even for her father or brother, but for her mother. The only one that cared for her had been ripped away from her. After that, she had simply lost her will to be a ninja. She had not attended the academy for almost 2 months. Sasuke had become even more insufferable after the massacre. She had lived in a separate house ever since then. Over her personal Sabbath of 2 months, she had realized that there was nothing else that she could do with her life. Even though Sasuke was going to be the clan head when he graduated from the academy, she had suspected that she would be banished from the clan as soon as he was able to. He had stated as much yesterday. So she would be a clanless orphan with no means to support herself. So she had gone to the Hokage and requested to be allowed to continue at the academy. She had unfortunately been placed in the same class as Sasuke. She had gone to the Hokage again, but he had sat her down and explained that her current class was the one class that was going to produce the most graduates, and her chances of becoming a ninja would improve if she stayed in this class. So she had relented. She had failed to make any friends in the academy, not that she tried very hard to make some. Almost all the girls were busy swooning over Sasuke and would imitate Sasuke in belittling her. She didn't show it, but their comments hurt. There were a few people that she thought that she could be friends with, but they each had their own circle of friends and she was too nervous to approach any of them. All that had changed when Naruto had helped her yesterday. She had been reviewing all of her interactions with him over the semester, and found that he had always been kind to her. She had thought long and hard about the chance that she had now. She would try to become his friend, and if he rebuffed her, she didn't want to think about that. When she had arrived at the academy the next day, she had immediately sought after Naruto. She had been disappointed when he didn't show up. She had noticed that Naruto's friend Mai Terumi had been distracted the whole day. She couldn't help but glance at her several times during the day, wondering how it would be if she was the one that was Naruto's friend. She had been surprised when Mai had sat down next to her and started up a conversation. Sometime during the conversation, Mai had mentioned that she and Naruto would train together every day after the academy was let out. Before she could think about it, she had asked her if she would mind if she joined them sometimes. Mai had just smiled at her and told her that she didn't mind, but she would need to ask Naruto about it. When Naruto had just agreed to her request as if there was nothing to think about, she had been filled a wonderful sense of lightness, as if a great weight had been lifted from her shoulders. A culmination of her high emotions, her reminiscing and her happiness led her to do something that she never would be bold enough to do otherwise. She flung herself at Naruto and wrapped her arms around him, crying tears of happiness into his chest. Naruto was startled when she had flung herself at him. He had just agreed to train with her, and the next thing he knew, he had a crying girl in his arms. Instincts kicking in, he just held her and allowed her to get control over her emotions, rubbing her back gently. After some time, she just rubbed her eyes on his shirt and stepped away from him. "I'm sorry," Sakiko stated, looking in every direction but straight at Naruto. "Don't worry your pretty head over it, Sakiko-san," Naruto said as he sat down on the couch. Sakiko blushed faintly, shook her head and sat down on the chair. "So why didn't you come to the academy today, Naruto-kun?" Mei asked as she sat down beside Naruto on the couch. I had a long talk with my godmother. You were right, Mei-chan. I'm glad that I decided to follow your advice, and she is a nice enough person, strong too. So, where is she? Mei asked, looking around as if expecting her to just pop up somewhere in the room. She said that she had some unfinished business to discuss with the Hokage. She'll be back later tonight. Saying that, Naruto got up and walked towards his bedroom. I'll be back in a few minutes. I just need to grab a few things before we leave for training. Naruto, Mei and Sakiko proceeded to the training ground, and they spent that day mostly talking and determining each other's skills, areas they felt that they needed to work on, and planning future training sessions. Naruto didn't like deceiving his friends about his true level of strength, but just looked at it as a necessity in order to protect his friends. It was a well-known fact that Mei considered Naruto to be his friend. The villagers would sometimes call her names, and sometimes would settle for glaring at her. It was nowhere near as bad as Naruto was treated, but Naruto still felt bad about it. Mei just waved his apologies aside and told him not to worry about it. Naruto was sure that it wouldn't take much time for them to figure out that Sakiko had joined their little group as well. They had warned her about this fact. She had just shrugged and said that whatever the village thinks didn't bother her that much. As long as she had someone that she could call a friend, it was worth it. Naruto and Mei could certainly relate to that. Time skip 4 months. Over the past 4 months, Sakiko had improved in heaps and bounds. She was almost at the same level as Mei was. Sometime during these 4 months, Sakiko had told the both of them about her childhood, and needless to say, they had vowed to never ever break their friendship with each other. Mei had even asked her to move in with her, stating that her apartment had an empty room and that she would be happy if she would accept to live with her. Sakiko had accepted and was now much happier for it. She had even told them about her disability in acquiring the Sharingan. After knowing about that, Naruto had asked Tsunade to check up on her and see if she could do anything. Needless to say, Tsunade hadn't gained her title as the best medic in the world on a fluke. She was able to heal her eyes and told her that they were back to normal and it would be possible for her to gain the Sharingan in time. Sakiko had thanked Naruto and Tsunade profusely. Naruto had asked her if she would like to tell Sasuke about this and see if he would change his mind about banishing her from the clan. Sakiko had flatly refused, saying that she wanted nothing to do with the Uchiha clan anymore. They had seen Naruto train one day and were amazed at the skill shown by their friend. They could barely follow his movements. The only time that they could tell anything was when Naruto separated from his opponent, either to catch a break or, as was often the case, to use ninjutsu. The trio of ninja trainees were currently sparring against each other. Mei and Sakiko against Naruto. Naruto was able to easily outmaneuver them, sliding away from their attacks with apparent ease, taking advantage of every opening that they left in their guards. He jumped above a leg sweep from Sakiko and saw that Mei was charging towards him with her fist cocked back. He turned in midair, grabbing her wrist, and then using her own momentum against her, he redirected her towards a nearby tree, sending her sprawling towards it. He just landed beside Sakiko, who was busy staring at the spectacle before her. Never lose your focus, Sakiko-chan. Naruto said before incapacitating her by holding a kunai at her throat. Man, no matter how hard we try, we never get to beat you. One of these days I'm going to kick you so bad that you will remember it for a long time. Mei grumbled as she came walking towards them. You might not realize this, but you improve a bit every day, both individually and as a team. I have to try harder each day to beat you. Naruto stated. But you always look as if you are hardly trying. It's as if whatever we do you just counter it, without showing surprise. Are we really that weak? Mei asked. She had wondered about this fact ever since Naruto had trained with her, but never had the courage to ask him. Today at the academy, a kid in their class had asked a seemingly innocent question. He had asked why there were so many academy students, but there were not that many Junin in the village. Iruka-sensei had gazed at the eager expressions of the class, sighed and told a very grim tale. He told them that many of the genins died in their career. The class had been understandably shocked and subdued that day. Mei was always worried that if she didn't grow strong along with Naruto-kun, he would just leave her in the dust. She knew that he would try his hardest to be there for her and would undoubtedly be her friend, but if they were a different rank they would no longer have any common ground, and would simply not spend as much time with her. She didn't admit it out loud, but she was a little intimidated the one time that Naruto had gone all out against Tsunade. That's not the case at all, Mei-chan, Naruto said. But, she was silenced as Naruto placed his finger on her lips. It is the ninja way, Mei-chan. Never let your opponent know what is going on in your mind. Never show pain, or even satisfaction on your face. Never let your emotions show on your face during battle. A skilled opponent might be able to talk you into circles long enough for you to leave an opening that he can exploit. Naruto explained. Both of the girls were listening to what Naruto had to say with rapt attention. They decided that they would follow his advice as best they could. Though I have to admit that I am far more powerful than you can imagine, Naruto stated cheekily. Mei just chuckled and swiped her hand at him half-heartedly. Sakiko giggled lightly. Suddenly Naruto sensed something approaching him and acting on instinct pushed Mei and Sakiko away from him. He had used all his power and thus they were able to avoid the blast resulting from an exploding note attached to a kunai that was thrown at their position. Naruto-kun, shouted the two girls. Well, what do we have here? A couple to cute academy students practicing with the demon brat, huh? Mie and Sakiko turned their heads rapidly from side searching for the assailant. Their attention was then drawn towards the center of the blast, where Naruto was standing, worry for their friend etched onto their faces. With Naruto. As soon as Naruto had sensed something, he had seen the end of paper trailing behind a kunai headed for his position. He pushed his friends away to save them from the inevitable blast and then released his seals just as the kunai impacted the ground before him. His subsequent release of chakra had been masked by the force of the explosion. He jumped back, made a shadow clone that took his place and hid in the trees, searching for whoever had attacked them. The ninja was good, he couldn't detect him. Naruto was beginning to feel a little bit of fear. He wasn't sure if he could take on the ninja and protect his friends at the same time. He spotted someone walking into the clearing, and just by looking at him Naruto knew that he was in for a tough fight. The man was wearing a standard Konoha Junin uniform. Naruto cursed inwardly. He thought that they were secluded enough that no one could find them here. He had made sure every day that no one followed them to this location. He saw that the Junin was walking deliberately towards Mei and Sakiko, who were staring at the remnants of the place where they believed him to be. He saw the Junin tense slightly and Naruto immediately burst into action. Looks like all the training that you didn't help the demon at all, huh? I don't have anything against you personally, but you are a liability, and needs to be dealt with. The Junin stated and charged towards them. Just as he was about to reach them, a giant gust of wind blew in front of them and slammed the Junin into a nearby tree after he had flown for about 50 meters. They looked ahead of them and saw Naruto leaping down from a tree. He stopped directly in front of them. I need the both of you to go get Tsunade or Shizune here, tell them what happened, I'll keep him off your back. Now go. No, you can't fight him alone, Naruto-kun, please, we'll go together, please. Sakiko pleaded. No, I don't have time, Sakiko-chan, please understand, go with Mei-chan, I can't forgive myself if something were to happen to you too. Naruto said, looking pleadingly at Mei. Damn you brat, that hurt. Naruto got into his fighting stance and looked towards the Junin, who had a thin trail of blood going down one side of his mouth. The Junin suddenly seemed to phase in front of him and sent Naruto flying back into a tree with a vicious backhand to his face. Naruto coughed out some blood and tried standing after the impact. The Junin just sneered at him. He walked up to him and kicked him in the stomach, hard. Naruto was lifted a few feet off the ground, and the Junin again punched him, sending him flying. Damn it, he's too strong. At this rate, all really. Kyuubi-chan, Mei-chan, Sakiko-chan. Naruto was suddenly filled with determination. He got up on his feet, albeit unsteadily, and charged at the Junin. Naruto fought with everything that he had. He put his training with Tsunade to good use, blocking some of the Junin's punches, but he soon realized that he just wasn't able to keep up. He was too weak from his initial beatdown. The Junin chuckled evilly, staring down at him. He was standing up but was unable to move, his whole body ached, his regeneration was working but it wasn't fast enough. The Junin went through some hand signs, concentrated a massive amount of chakra and shouted out Kaiden, Karyudan, Fire Dragon Projectile. With the Junin, just as he finished shouting his technique, he panted a bit, and went down on his knees. He had seriously underestimated the demon brat. Although he had dominated throughout the fight, he had been hit several times. He had just been promoted to Junin and he had promised himself a long time ago that when he was made Junin he would kill the demon brat that had killed so many during that night 8 years ago. And today was the day that he finally accomplished his goal. He watched with satisfaction as his fire dragon approached its victim. Suddenly he saw that the demon was engulfed in a strange chakra that was black in color. He watched as he dodged his technique and suddenly appeared in front of him. What he saw shook him to his very core. His eyes had totally changed. Naruto just stared wide-eyed, trembling at his approaching death. He was rooted to the spot, unable to do anything. Damn it! If only if had been stronger. Naruto-kun. Naruto suddenly felt chakra returning to him and suddenly his perception of the world changed. He could see things with clarity that he hadn't been able to before. He picked up subtle movements around him. He could clearly see the fire dragon approach him, much more slowly than before. He tried moving and found that he was able to do so easily. He saw that the person who attacked him was on his knees and out of breath. He rushed towards his position. He got directly in front of him and backhanded him towards a rock in the clearing. The Junin impacted with the stone, making a rough crater. Naruto didn't let up on his attack. He again got in front of him, ducked under his punch and opening his palm straight, fingers slightly bent, moving it in a spiral fashion, punched him with all his might in the stomach, whispering, Atsuryoku Sudareki, pressure strike. The rock, which had already weakened slightly by his earlier attack, shattered completely, and the Junin was sent crumpling to the ground at Naruto's feet, coughing up vast amounts of blood. Naruto just stared at him dispassionately and left the clearing, heading in the direction of his house. He hadn't gone far away before he saw his Ba-chan, closely followed by Mei and Sakiko, heading towards him. He just smiled at them and promptly slipped into unconsciousness. Naruto's mindscape. Naruto woke up blinking rapidly. He looked at his surroundings and realized that he was in his mindscape. Looking around for Kyuubi, he frowned when he couldn't see her anywhere. Normally she would be waiting for him to wake up. He got up and began searching for her. He entered the house and immediately saw that Kyuubi was laid out on the couch. Naruto was shocked to see that she appeared to be completely exhausted and was breathing quite heavily. Kyuubi-chan, what happened? Naruto asked as he sat down beside her and took her hand in his. Kyuubi smiled up at him gently, and picking herself up a little bit motioned Naruto to get behind her. Naruto understood what she wanted and sat down on the couch and laid Kyuubi's head in his lap. He automatically began running his hands through her hair. Kyuubi just enjoyed the position she was in. Closing her eyes, she sighed in contentment. She got up and laid her back against Naruto. She took his arms in hers and wrapped them around herself. Naruto had a faint blush on his cheeks that she completely missed. Kyuubi-chan, why were you so exhausted earlier? Naruto asked after some time, concern laced in his voice. When I gave you the Sharingan, there was something that I left out. The Sharingan is cursed. When the user masters the Sharingan and gains its final form, the user steadily loses his eyesight the more he uses its powers. The Sharingan of the Uchihas is a double-edged sword. While it grants the user amazing abilities, it comes at the cost of losing one's vision. I knew of a way to get rid of this curse. I simply needed to use my chakra to make a final change to it. I just miscalculated the amount of chakra that would be required. I used up about 8 taels of my chakra. That was the reason that I was so exhausted. Kyuubi stated, tensing slightly, afraid of Naruto's reaction. She knew from previous experience that the chakra used by her would forever be lost to her. The seal prevented her from restoring her chakra. She knew that Naruto was also aware of this fact. She really didn't want to tell him what she had done. Naruto would definitely get mad at her. She sighed. She would just have to tell him and wait for the consequences. 8 tails. But why? I know you are aware that you can't replenish your power while sealed, so why? Naruto asked, confused. The Sharingan had a second level, Naruto-kun. It's called the Mangekyo Sharingan. The longer that you use this level, the more you are blinded. The only way for the user to overcome this disability is to take the eyes of a blood relative that has also awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan. But even this level is a bridge between the Sharingan and the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, the true and final form of the Sharingan. Kyuubi said. Kyuubi noticed the shocked look on his face, and seeing that he was about to argue with her, she hastily begun to continue her story. The basis of this fact is that the Sharingan requires another chakra source, one that is similar to the user's chakra, in order to gain stability and finish its evolution into the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. What I did ensured that whenever you gain the Mangekyo Sharingan, it would not stay in that stage and directly transcend to the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. Kyuubi said, letting out her breath after her monologue. How do you get the Mangekyo Sharingan? Naruto asked. Kyuubi was happy that Naruto had not blamed her for not informing him of her plans. She knew that had she told him, he would have flatly refused her offer and said that he would find another way. Kyuubi always admired his sense of righteousness and his fierce loyalty to those that he considered friends. There are 2 ways to gain the Mangekyo, Naruto-kun. Though the Uchiha believe that to gain the Mangekyo you need to kill your closest friend, the other way is for the user to gain complete mastery over the Sharingan. This, however, takes a lot of time and training. With me helping you master the Sharingan, it would take you about 5 to 6 years. Kyuubi said. You should rest, Kyuubi-chan, you're still a little tired. Naruto said. I will, Naruto-kun, but first you have to show me your Sharingan. Kyuubi said, spinning around in his arms and facing him directly, with an excited gleam in her eyes. What do you mean, Kyuubi-chan? Why would my Sharingan be any different? Naruto asked with a confused expression on his face. Well, I altered the Sharingan a bit. I improved it, you could say. Just know that your Sharingan, while having the same powers as the Uchiha, will be much better, and should you fight against another Sharingan wielder, you would have a slight advantage. Now hurry up. I wanna see. Kyuubi said with a childlike pout on her face. Naruto chuckled at the face that Kyuubi was making and channeled chakra into his eyes. He saw that he had the same perception of the world as he had when he was fighting earlier. Looking at Kyuubi, he saw that she was looking at his eyes in wonder and amazement. Getting curious himself, he turned his head and looked at the mirror behind the couch. When he saw his eyes, he was shocked and frankly, a bit unnerved. His sclera had turned completely black, his irises were a bright golden yellow with one tomo similar to the Sharingan in each eye. He stared entranced into his eyes for quite some time, before Kyuubi caught hold of his chin and peered into his eyes for a long time. Seemingly in a trance, she was leaning closer to his face. Naruto just stared wide-eyed at Kyuubi's actions, and before he realized it, he had just received his first proper kiss. Kyuubi broke contact almost immediately, as if realizing her actions, and blushed an amazing shade of red, so much so that her whole face including her neck was red. That was, what I mean is, Kyuubi stuttered, her face still glowing. Kyuubi was mortified. She just up and kissed Naruto on the lips. Sure, she planned to do that, and so much more, but this was a few years before she planned to tell him. She decided to just tell him and leave the rest up to him. Letting out a deep breath, she said, Naruto-kun, what I meant to say is that I love you. She faltered slightly at the end, her blush intensifying. Naruto wasn't doing much better than her. He had a huge blush adorning his cheeks, and was staring at her in slight shock. He stared at Kyuubi's face that was looking up at him expectantly with a slight hint of fear and nervousness. Naruto just pulled her in for a hug, and spoke to her, his voice slightly muffled by her hair. You're always there for me, always helping me selflessly. I never thought that you would feel the same way about me. At first I thought that you helped me for getting revenge on Madara, but over the past year I realized that you genuinely wanted to help me. I was happy to be your friend, Just being with you together made the whole training that I'm going through worthwhile. I would always get happy whenever you praise me or mastering a jutsu or completing my stances. What I'm trying to say is that, Kyuubi-chan, I love you too. Naruto said, his eyes still sporting his Sharingan shining with emotion. Naruto watched as Kyuubi's expression gradually changed from nervous and fearful to hopeful before it softened and teared up a bit at Naruto's words before erupting into pure joy at Naruto's ending statement. Kyuubi just hugged him close, and after some time, Naruto plucked up his courage and leaning forward captured her lips in a soft and innocent kiss. They didn't know how long they were laid out on the couch, lying together in each other's arms, kissing softly after some time of being apart. They didn't say anything, just enjoying the moment, happy that they would be able to continue doing this for a long time to come.